I used to think my hair just wasn't cooperating anymore. Turns out the style itself had been quietly aging me for years and nobody in my life said a word. Today we're going through 5 hairstyles that read as outdated on women over 50, and exactly what to ask for instead so you walk out looking sharper, not older. I researched the worst style and beauty mistakes and the best fixes for women over 50, so you get real results, fast. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I cover this every week. Part 1. The helmet bob that's sealing in every year. Here's something most women don't realize. The rounded chin-length helmet bob was actually designed decades ago as a low-maintenance shape, not a flattering one. It was built for convenience, not for softness around the face. And yet it's still one of the most requested cuts by women over 50 today, because it feels safe. It feels tidy. It feels like something that won't go wrong. But here's the surprising part. That same roundness that feels safe is doing something specific to your face that most women never connect. A perfectly rounded silhouette mirrors the natural softening that already happens to the jawline with age. Instead of creating contrast against that softness, the helmet bob doubles down on it. Round shape, round jaw, round cheeks. Everything blurs together into one shape with no edges to catch the eye. You've probably felt this without being able to name it. You look in the mirror after a fresh cut, and the color is right, the shine is right, but something about your whole face reads heavier than you feel inside. That's not your face changing overnight. That's the haircut working against you. So here's the one fix, and it's simpler than most stylists make it sound. Ask for internal layering with a slightly angled perimeter, not a fully new cut. You keep the length you're comfortable with. You keep the low-maintenance shape you like. What changes is the line. Instead of one solid rounded edge, the ends are cut so they fall at a soft diagonal, longer in the front, shorter toward the back, with layers cut into the interior so the hair has movement instead of sitting like a single dense mass. This does 2 things at once. The angled perimeter creates a visual line that runs toward the chin rather than around it, which pulls the eye downward and elongates the whole face instead of widening it. And the internal layers break up that single dense block of hair into pieces, so light catches at different points instead of reflecting off one flat rounded surface. Ask specifically for point cutting on the ends rather than blunt shears. That's the technique that keeps the edges soft instead of heavy. The result shows up almost immediately, and it's not subtle. Women describe it as their face opening up again. What's actually happening is contrast. For the first time in years, the haircut is creating a shape that's different from your natural face shape instead of matching it. And that contrast is what reads as definition, structure, and yes, younger. I want to be clear about something, because this is where a lot of women get nervous. This isn't a dramatic chop. You're not walking in blonde and rounded, and walking out with a pixie you didn't ask for. This is the same length, the same general shape, with one specific technical change that a stylist can execute in the same appointment you were already booking. Bring a photo. Say the words soft angled perimeter with point cut ends, and internal layering at the crown. Those exact phrases matter because just add some layers gets interpreted a dozen different ways by a dozen different stylists, and you want this one specific result. Before, a solid, evenly rounded bob with blunt, heavy ends that sit like one dense shape around the face. After, the same length and low maintenance ease, but with a soft angled perimeter and internal layers that create movement and pull the eye downward instead of around. It's a 5-minute conversation with your stylist that changes how your whole face reads in every photo from here forward. And that's just the first one. The next mistake is even more common, and it's one you've probably been doing every single morning without realizing it's working against you the entire time. Part 2, the overly sprayed set-in-place style. Let's talk about something that used to be a compliment and quietly turned into a problem. The perfectly set style. The kind where every strand holds its position from breakfast to bedtime. For a long time, that was the entire goal of a good hairstyle. Now it's doing the opposite of what you want. Think about the last time you saw a photo of yourself from a decade or 2 ago. Hair perfectly set, not a strand moving. It probably felt polished at the time. But look at it again now, next to a recent photo where your hair had even a little movement in it. The set style reads older. Not because the cut is bad, but because static, unmoving hair signals rigidity, and rigidity is something we associate, often unconsciously with age. Here's the part almost nobody explains. Movement is one of the strongest unconscious signals of vitality that exists in a photograph or in person. Hair that shifts slightly when you turn your head, that has a bit of natural fall to it, reads as alive. Hair that's been sprayed into a fixed shape reads as preserved. And preserved is not the compliment it sounds like. So here's the fix, and it comes down to one ingredient swap plus one technique change. First, the ingredient swap. Trade heavy hold aerosol hairspray for a lightweight, flexible hold mousse or texturizing spray applied at the roots only, not throughout. Heavy hairspray coats every strand and glues them together into a single stiff shape. A flexible hold product lets each strand keep some independent movement while still holding the overall style. Second, the technique change. When you're finishing your style, use a boar bristle brush and finger diffuse the last 30 seconds of drying instead of directing every section with a round brush until it's completely flat and uniform. This is the step that puts natural-looking movement back into the ends of your hair, instead of a single stiff wave pattern repeated across your whole head. It takes less time than the old method, not more. That's the part women are always surprised by. The change in how you're perceived happens almost the moment you turn your head. When hair moves even slightly with you instead of staying frozen in place, people read your whole presence as more relaxed, more current, more approachable. It's one of the fastest visual signals there is, and it costs you nothing extra. You're using less product, not more. I'll tell you the thing my own stylist told me years ago that finally made this click. You're not trying to make it stay. You're trying to make it fall well. That's a completely different goal than the one most of us were taught. We were taught to fight gravity and humidity and movement itself. The actual goal is to work with them. If you're someone who's been using the same finishing spray for 15 years because it's familiar, I understand the hesitation to change it. But this is the single easiest fix in this entire video to test. You don't need an appointment. You don't need to commit to anything permanent. Try it once, on a normal day, and pay attention to how your hair looks in photos taken from across the room rather than close up. That's where the difference is most visible. Before, hair set into a single fixed shape with heavy hold, no independent movement in any section. After, the same style, same length, same routine time, but with flexible hold and diffused ends that move naturally when you do. One product swap and one 30-second habit change is the entire fix. Now the next one is a color mistake more than a cut mistake, and it's the one I get asked about more than any other. Part 3: the flat, uniform color that's draining your face. Nobody tells you this when you first start covering gray. But the goal was never supposed to be one solid, even color from root to end. That's what most of us were handed as the default, and for a while it worked fine. Somewhere along the way, though, that flat uniform color stopped doing you any favors, and almost nobody's face structure actually benefits from it the way we assume it does. Here's the surprising fact. As skin naturally loses some warmth and contrast with age, a single flat hair color has nothing to play off of. There's no light, no dark, no dimension near the face to create the kind of natural frame that catches attention and adds life back into your complexion. The color sits there as a block, and everything below it, your skin, your eyes, has to do all the visual work alone. You know this moment. You've just left the salon, color freshly done, and it looks great under salon lighting. Then you get home, stand in your regular bathroom mirror, or catch yourself in a work video call. And something about it reads flatter than it did an hour ago. That's not the color fading. That's flat color behaving differently under different lighting than dimensional color does. The fix here is dimensional color placed specifically around the face, not an all-over overhaul. Ask for face framing baby lights or a soft balayage limited to the front pieces, 2 to 3 shades lighter than your base color. You are not changing your entire color. You're adding movement and light exactly where it does the most work. The pieces that fall closest to your cheeks and jawline. This works because those lighter pieces near the face catch light first, before anything else in the frame does, and they draw the eye toward your eyes and cheekbones instead of down into a flat mass of solid color. It's the same principle photographers use when lighting a portrait. You don't light the whole scene evenly, you create a bright point exactly where you want attention to land. Ask your colorist for face framing dimension, low maintenance, blended not stripy. That phrase gets you soft, natural pieces rather than the harsh chunky highlights from decades ago that a lot of women are, understandably, trying to avoid. The result is immediate under any lighting, not just salon lighting, because Dimension doesn't rely on a specific light source the way flat color does. Multiple tones catch and reflect light differently no matter where you are, which is exactly why it holds up in a work video call as well as it does walking into a restaurant. A friend of mine put off doing this for almost 2 years because she was convinced Dimension meant going lighter overall, which she didn't want. When she finally sat down with a colorist who actually listened, the appointment took 20 extra minutes beyond her normal touch-up and used maybe a third of her head in foils. That's it. Her base color stayed almost exactly the same. The only real difference was those few pieces near her face, and it was the first time in years someone stopped her on the street to ask what she'd done differently. If your colorist pushes back and says flat color is easier to maintain, that's true, but it's not the same conversation as what looks best. Easier and better aren't always the same appointment. You can ask for low-maintenance Dimension specifically. It exists, and a good colorist will know exactly what technique that means without you having to explain it further. Before, one uniform, flat color from root to end with no light or dark variation anywhere near the face. After, the same base color, the same maintenance schedule, with soft face framing Dimension added around the cheeks and jaw that catches light and pulls focus toward your features instead of away from them. There's one more styling habit left that I saved for later on purpose, because once you hear it, you'll notice it in almost every older photo of yourself, and it has nothing to do with cut or color at all. Part 4, the over-teased, over-volumized crown. This one is going to sound like the opposite of everything else in this video, because the mistake here isn't too little effort, it's too much, concentrated in exactly the wrong place. I'm talking about heavy teasing and built-up volume piled specifically at the crown, the kind of style that was the height of glamour at one point and never fully got the update it needed. Here's what's actually happening structurally. A large, dense volume of hair sitting high at the crown adds visual height directly above the face, which sounds like it should be flattering. More height, more presence. But what it actually does is create a top-heavy silhouette that makes the face beneath it look smaller and more compressed by comparison. It's a proportion problem, not a volume problem. The crown isn't the issue. The imbalance is. You've likely noticed this in photos where you felt like your hair looked done, but something about the picture still felt off. It's rarely the styling effort that's the problem in those photos. It's that all the volume lives in one concentrated zone instead of being distributed across the whole head. And concentrated volume anywhere reads as dated far faster than distributed volume does. The fix is redistributing that same volume instead of removing it entirely, which is good news if you love the fuller look and don't want to give it up. Ask your stylist for root lift applied evenly from the crown through the sides, using a volumizing mousse at the roots and a round brush technique that lifts hair away from the scalp along the whole part line, not just at the very top. You keep the fullness. You're just spreading it across a wider zone instead of stacking it in one spot. The specific technique to request is diffused root volume, rather than backcombing or teasing. Diffused volume is created by lifting sections away from the scalp while drying, which builds soft fullness gradually across the whole crown and sides. Backcombing and teasing physically tangle the hair shaft to force it upward in one concentrated area, which is exactly what creates that top-heavy, dated silhouette in the first place. Same goal, completely different method, completely different result. Once that volume is spread evenly, the proportion between your hair and your face rebalances almost instantly. The face reads larger and more open because it's no longer being visually compressed underneath a tall, narrow column of hair. People often describe this fix as making someone look lighter overall, and that's a fairly literal description of what's happening. The visual weight has moved from one dense point to a wider, softer distribution. I want to say this clearly because I know some of you have loved big hair your whole life and you're worried this means giving it up. It doesn't. This fix keeps the volume. It keeps the fullness. What it removes is the single concentrated peak that reads as a specific decade rather than a specific style. Big hair, done with distributed root lift instead of teasing, reads as intentional and current. Big hair concentrated at the crown reads as leftover from an era, rather than a choice you're making today. If you're doing this yourself at home rather than at a salon, the home version is simple. Section your hair into 4 to 6 parts before drying. Lift each section at the root with a round brush and warm air, and move to the next section before moving on to full-length drying. Do the whole head this way before you touch a single section with cool set volume spray. The order matters as much as the technique. Before, heavy volume concentrated and teased specifically at the crown, creating a tall, narrow silhouette above a visually compressed face. After, the same fullness and the same big hair look, but the volume is lifted and distributed evenly from the crown through the sides using a round brush and diffused root lift, rebalancing the whole proportion of the style. One more to go, and honestly, this last one might be the most common mistake on this entire list, because almost nobody thinks of it as a hairstyle mistake at all. Part 5, the over-trimmed no-length fringe. Here's the last one, and it's sneaky because it doesn't feel like a style choice. It feels like maintenance. I'm talking about a fringe that's been trimmed shorter and shorter over the years, session after session, until it sits high on the forehead in a straight, blunt line that never really got redesigned, just repeatedly shortened. This usually isn't a decision anyone made on purpose. It happens gradually. Each trim takes off a little more to clean it up. The line gets a little higher, a little blunter, and after enough appointments the fringe that once framed the face gracefully has turned into something closer to a straight-edged shelf sitting above the eyebrows. Nobody chose that outcome. It just accumulated. Here's the part that surprises people most. A short, blunt fringe sitting high on the forehead actually shortens the appearance of the whole face, not just the forehead itself. It creates a hard horizontal line very close to the eyebrows, which visually caps the face and makes the distance between hairline and eyes look smaller and more compressed than it actually is. It's one of the only hair mistakes on this list that can genuinely change your face shape at a glance. The fix is a curtain fringe, and specifically, one grown out to brow length or just below, parted in the center and swept to either side rather than cut straight across. This is the single most requested fringe change among stylists who work with women over 50, for good reason. Instead of one hard horizontal line, you get two soft diagonal lines framing each side of the face, which is a completely different visual effect from a blunt cap sitting above the brows. Ask specifically for curtain fringe, brow grazing length, face framing layers blended into the sides. That phrasing tells your stylist exactly how much length to leave and how to blend the transition, so it doesn't look like a random grown-out fringe sitting awkwardly on its own. The layers on either side should be long enough to tuck behind your ears on a day you want it out of your face entirely, which gives you two completely different looks from one cut. Once that horizontal line becomes two soft diagonal ones, the entire upper half of your face opens up. The eyes read larger, the brow area feels less boxed in, and the forehead to eye distance no longer looks artificially shortened. It's a small change in inches and a large change in how open and youthful the whole face reads, especially in photos taken straight on, which is exactly the angle the old blunt fringe struggled with most. If you're currently in the short blunt phase and worried about the grow-out period, here's the part your stylist should tell you and often doesn't. You don't have to sit through weeks of awkward in-between length. Ask for the sides to be softly blended toward the growing out centerpieces at every appointment along the way, so the fringe never has an obvious stuck stage. It's a gradual reshaping, not a single dramatic weight. Most women reach brow grazing, side-swept length within 4 to 6 regular appointments without ever having an awkward photo in between. I'll tell you honestly, this is the fix I hear about most from women months after they've made it. Not because the change is dramatic in the mirror that first day, but because it's the one that shows up most in photos. Family photos, video calls, the ones you didn't plan around your hair. That's where a blunt fringe was working against you the hardest. And it's where the curtain fringe quietly does the most work in your favor. Before, a short, blunt fringe cut straight across, sitting high above the eyebrows and creating a hard horizontal line that shortens the whole face. After, the same fringe grown to brow grazing length, center parted and swept into soft diagonal lines on either side, blended into longer face framing layers that open the whole upper face. You just walk through 5 specific fixes: a softer angled bob line, flexible hold movement instead of a fixed set, face framing dimension in your color, distributed root volume instead of a teased crown, and a curtain fringe instead of a blunt one. And every single one of them keeps the length, color, and effort you already know, with one precise adjustment each. That's the real secret here. Nothing about looking current required starting over. Tell me in the comments which one of these 5 you're doing right now. I want to know which fix you're trying first. Next week I'm covering the makeup habits doing the exact same thing to your face that these hairstyles were doing, so you'll want to be here for that one. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.